Hello YouTubies, this is Freddy Hotez and thank you for watching this YouTube video. And today I'd like to talk about the Jester spirit. Now this is my idea for a personification of the personalities behind comedians and those people who use satire to alter human consciousness and who just tend to make people happy. They make people laugh. Sometimes they don't say the nicest things, but they always have the good influence on society in the end. They deliver home truths sometimes in a way where people actually misunderstand it and they take it from the literal point of view. But there seems to be, to me, and I've said this for a long time, there seems to be some forces on Earth which are influencing humanity. One end is a sort of psychopathic type end that wants to produce this sort of society of people who are uncaring, never laugh, and if you see in cults like church and etc., they barely have a personality. You know, Islam for instance, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they don't really laugh at very much. They take things way too seriously, and this might explain what happened in Paris recently. But there are two forces on Earth, and one of them is the good force, which I would call the Jester spirits. People who like having a good time. They have a sense of humour. And then you get another force that they don't have a sense of humour, and when they don't have a sense of humour, they tend to be more corrupt in nature. But one thing people actually miss is that the Jesters have been influencing society for a very long time, and I thought I'd just hit upon something which was you know, maybe this hasn't been seen before, you know, because I noticed that comedians were saying things about climate change, and I was literally arguing with people on the internet, or I don't mean arguing, I was, you know, saying, oh, climate change doesn't exist and all this, and I would come up with you know, Facebook pages or whatever, or, you know, big articles on the internet, and people would just disagree with it, or they would disagree with your comments, and then you get one jester on stage and they would just make a joke, and it was a good joke, and then people say, oh yeah, I get what it means, and yeah, the climate change is a bit bullshit anyway. And so they agree with that comedian, but me trying to actually create scientific fact, they don't actually agree with that. And that just shows you the power of the Jester spirit, because Jesters have a way of opening our eyes through our soul. You know, they can do that. They can actually open people's eyes, and because of this, they are powerful force on Earth, because they can do a terrific amount of damage to the psychopathic control grid if they really wanted to. They just make one good joke and suddenly 10 years of propaganda goes down the shitter, basically. You know, and you've probably seen this before on the internet. You're probably seen some joke on the internet, you thought, oh, that actually makes sense, and suddenly, you know, your eyes opened up and you changed. I'm not going to give many examples, but they do happen, because, you know, you don't need any. You've probably seen some really good jokes on the internet before. But the other side is with the psychopathic sort of side, and these people with no personalities, you know, no you know, sense of humour. And this seems to go down the religious path and also the cults, because, you know, you get the feminists out there and they barely have a sense of humour. And if they do have a sense of humour, it's usually an attacking sense of humour, whereas the opposite end, where, you know, men are just saying get back in the kitchen or something, is more funny. You know, it's not an attack. It's not saying, you know, we should chop people up or anything, but that's more or less what the you know, some of the feminists would actually say. Oh, it's funny, you know, when a man gets chopped up by a woman. That's not funny. That's just, you know, their idea of a joke. And these people do not understand satire. And people do have an irony deficiency, and that's another thing I've noticed. And because of this, the Jesters seem to increase in power when somebody has an irony deficiency. Just think of psychopaths, for instance. They have no understanding of how satire, I mean pure psychopaths, how satire actually works. They take things literally. And sometimes autistic people do, but I mean, they do have a sense of humour. Psychopaths don't. They take life seriously. Do you ever hear a psychopath actually making a good joke? If it is, it's always a knock knock and why did a chicken cross the road? These are not jokes. These are not satire. These are just worn out, play of words, and they probably just listen to somebody else telling it. Oh yeah, that's going to be funny. I've heard people laugh at why did the chicken cross the road. People laugh just to be friendly about that sort of shit. They don't find it funny. Now, with the Paris attacks on the, this magazine, and they killed a cop as well. With this sort of thing, I was watching it, and I was thinking of something. I mean, it wasn't that I was, playing with myself so hard that my, my Jester wig fell off or anything. It's something else. I actually thought something was terrific about the way, I don't mean what happened to the people in the magazine, because I think these are good people, but the way these people were using satire, in the magazine through art and creativity, just shows you the power of just how strong this sort of stuff can be, because it's obviously influencing certain members of the, Islam community, and maybe even waking some of them up. And this is why these types of cult members and religious fanatics are actually scared of this, especially the ones who don't believe it but preach it, because they see that it influences humanity to a terrific range. And by actually hurting these other people, what they've done is they've actually increased the strength of the Jester, because you can't kill the Jester. The Jester, if I'm being honest, is more like a bloody fucking cartoon character. It just bounces straight back up. You can't hurt a cartoon character, because it'll always find a way to actually screw you over in the end. And that's what I'm seeing right now. Some of the extremists in the Islam community are actually now promoting this magazine, and the magazine is just selling out. It's going to other countries, selling out completely. Obviously, they go have to change the language a bit on it, because people won't understand the French language. Not everybody. But if they do that, they can actually really make a decent profit on that, and actually use satire in a better way. To actually change society. And for those people who actually disagree with me, say, oh, satire doesn't make any difference. Here's something for you. If you've been brought up in education, I want to ask you a question. Why was somebody like Shakespeare, why was he using jesters to actually deliver home truths about the people in charge back in his day? He was actually mocking them, using the jester. And he was doing it in such a way that, for instance, I think it was King Lear and also his wife, and one of the jesters was just mocking her. But she thought it was a compliment, and because it was done in such a way of complex riddles or whatever, the satire was difficult to understand for the wife of the king. She thought nothing ever happened to him, but he was ripping the fucking piss out of the king's wife in Shakespeare's play, and that just shows you something. That shows you something that we forgot. Thanks to the media, we forgot the Jester spirit. We forgot this. But if you look throughout history, you can see that our ancestors knew about this. This isn't a new discovery. My grandfather told them that the best way to get at an asshole is to use satire, or to rip the piss. And I don't mean bully them. I mean just use a joke or something, because it would destroy a smear campaign. It would destroy more or less anything. But people have forgot this. They're more about fighting. You've got to use satire sometimes, because you've got to use the force that is best for the human consciousness. And many people will understand satire. Not everybody, but many people will get it. They will like it, and they will laugh, and they will warm to you immediately. So I suggest that everybody in the alternative community start studying the Jester, because the Jester is the one force on our earth that can make a big difference. If everybody was making good jokes about fracking or whatever, I'm sure those jokes would go throughout the communities on Earth, and everybody would hear it eventually, even if it's not advertised by the TV stations. And this sort of thing can get mainstream too. For instance, you can hear some dirty jokes about even races, and these are all banned, but they still get about somehow. And that's because you cannot tame the jester. The jester is I wouldn't say a virus, but it acts in that way. It sort of just spreads from one person to the next, and it's a good one. It's like more like an antivirus or whatever you call it, but it spreads from one person to the next. It doesn't need mass media. But if you had mass media, all the better, all the funnier. So yeah, we've got to get back to our ancestor days when we were actually using jesters, because I do see it. I do see jesters on stage still, like Frankie Boyle, etc., who are funny, but there's still something missing. They are funny, but they're not really fully trying to change society as they used to. But some of them were. George Carlin was, and some other Bill Hicks was as well. They were completely woken up, and they were trying to change society. And they would actually just say a joke on stage, and everybody would just be on their side. It doesn't matter what it was about. You try to say to everybody, we're not responsible for every animal dying on Earth. You'll be in a big discussion with some of these nutcases for ages. George Carlin just goes on fucking stage, makes a few jokes, and everybody says, oh yeah, I get what you mean. We didn't kill them all. What happened to the dinosaurs? And then suddenly, he just gets everybody on his side. It's like it's like a magic of some type. It's unbelievably powerful. And the fact of the matter is, psychopaths don't even get it. They don't understand the satire behind it. So let's listen to this. This is the amazing thing. The jester is smarter than what people think. The fool by Shakespeare was described as smarter than the king. The smartest person in the Shakespeare's play was the fool, was the jester himself. That's their word for the jester. And he was able to trick everybody to make society better. So, I never forgot what I was saying. But yeah, I mean, we've got to get back to these days when we were using satire. Because I've not seen any really good satire for a very long time, except for people like Bill Hicks and a number of others. But the power behind it, the power behind the jesters, has been shown throughout history, and it's something that we really need to get back to grips with, because this is a force that can make a big difference. You can go out and campaign, against the water charges and also against fluoridation of the water. But if you also use the jester, that can spread from one person to the next, and it will open their eyes quicker. These comedians have managed to do it from just one joke, where you would actually be spending the rest of your life arguing with somebody, because they wouldn't actually get it. But psychopaths do not have a sense of humor. And because of this, when you're using the jester spirits, you can actually be talking in two separate languages. And that's magical. I don't think people understand the exact power of that, but if you're talking one language to another language to another person, effectively you can actually trick the psychopath into doing something else. They actually believe you're actually on their side, when actually this is what satire is. Satire is, as somebody described with bad people, it's stabbing them through the back at their face, in front of their face. That's what satire is. It's an ability to trick certain people into believing something, and other people will understand it and get it. So people don't have a sense of humor; they can easily be tricked. Anyway, the video's gone over a bit, but I thought this would be an interesting subject, and I might make a few more videos about this because it is an interesting subject. Anyway, thank you for watching. Goodbye for now. I'll see you later. Bye bye.